Awesome.
Fireside, tub side chats.
Yes, exactly. So hello, we are the Trillium ladies. We're meeting again today, and how is everybody today?
Awesome.
And we're missing Krystal, but she'll be back. So a lot of talk and chatter has been going on with the coronavirus. I mean, it's all over the place. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos where they're finding the number 33 everywhere in like all these news reports, and you know, that's like the Freemason number, right? So it just seems like there's a lot of fear in the collective consciousness around this virus, and it seems like we've been through this before. So what are your thoughts on staying centered and grounded and maintaining peace in our lives, and also being smart and cautious, you know, in case it is a thing? Yeah. Which it sounds like it's a real thing. It's just how it's going to play out. It's kind of an unknown. So what thoughts do you guys have on that?
Well, first off, I think it's probably way over. There's a lot of fear with it that people are trying to make us afraid, and they want it to be this huge, massive thing. And I don't really feel that it is. I feel that it's not really that big of a deal at all, and that it's not going to be that big of a deal. But I do feel like it is parts of a cleansing with the timeline, that whatever is not in harmony with where we're moving with this timeline into this unconditional love timeline. So anything that is not going to resonate with that, this might be a natural falling away of that energy. But if you are, you know, in that space of wanting to move forward with that, then you will, and your families will move with you too. It's not like you have to like be there fully, you know. It's not like there's some judgment of it. It's just if your heart is in the right place and you want the highest good for all, then you're on that timeline where that will be the case.
Yeah, and don't you think it's a catalyst for like red pilling people? Like it's getting people to kind of question things. They're like,
yeah, when we were, the three of us and Krystal were actually down in Los Angeles when this actually broke out, but we hadn't been listening to any media for the most part. So I was unaware until my son called me on the way home. And the good thing is he's actually waking up in his own way. I mean, he's heard me for years spouting things, but he's, you know, mid-20s, and he's now finding his own sources, and you know, in a way that's good. But when I came home, he had actually seen some videos from China and was under really in a place of fear that it was going to be this mass epidemic. I literally came home to him wearing a mask. His hair was in a plastic thing. His door was blockaded, and because there had been one case apparently in Los Angeles, he treated me like I was like in quarantine. Like he didn't want to be anywhere near me. Like literally. So it was painful. Now he's fine. He's, you know, just washing his hands and you know, he wears a mask anyway because he's sensitive to certain smells and stuff. But and he knows about all the geoengineering stuff. So he's actually he innately knows how to protect himself. But so to go from come home to like what? And I'm thinking like in 2016 we were in Costa Rica when the Zika virus broke out, and where were we when the H1N1 broke out? And do you hear about those at all? No, you don't hear about them at all. They're so weaponized, and it's so interesting how, I mean, everyone has their theories. I watched the press conference today with President Trump and a lot of the CDC people, and I mean, it appears now again, it's on it was a YouTube channel, so I didn't even know what it was on, if it was Fox or what I was watching, but it was about an hour long. But it literally sounds as though there are isolated 15 cases here in the U.S., plus the people that were on the cruise ship, the Japanese citizens, U.S. citizens, and but under 100 for sure. I mean, and it's very well controlled. It's the numbers are going down. In fact, the people that were in the hospital, many are ready to be discharged. So not to say that it cannot spread or become more than it is, but it sure appears to be being handled well here. So I think there's very little risk here. Now, that said, there is stuff going on in China, and we know that it's highly censored over there. I know, Randi, your friend Jamie has a lot of information about that I'm going to kind of watch over the weekend, some of the stuff she's sending. But I just don't, the vibration of somebody in fear is never going to help the collective. It's never going to help the collective when you're putting that out. And honestly, if you're centered, like, drink good water, keep your heart pure, be, have faith, have hope and faith, find whatever, breathe, do yoga, meditate, whatever you need to do to stay centered is what's going to help the collective and help this timeline and help, not this timeline, but just help the collective. And I just think people are getting caught up. It's hard to not do that if you're on social media at all, because someone is in fear.
I know, you can tell who watches TV news and who's buying it and who's not. And it's unbelievable how little fear people have if they're not just gobbling up the news. It's just ridiculous. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys about is, I've heard this theory about there's the virus, and then it interacts with maybe the aluminum or different chemtrail chemicals and bots or whatever that are in our bodies now, and that they're actually taking people out with the 5G frequencies. Do you think that all that's connected? To me, that still feels really, maybe it doesn't feel clear to me that that's all related. But how are they doing that? Like, how are they, is the virus really just taking people out, or do you think it's the 5G or some kind of weaponized frequency thing? I don't know. Have you guys looked into that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think it's a virus. I don't think it's a natural occurring virus. I don't think it came from bat soup. I think that's that shit crazy, and that's not the truth.
And they already have a vaccine, probably.
There's a
vaccine, of course, on the way. Well, so I think it's a bioengineered weapon. I do think it's nanotechnology with nanobots.
Okay.
And I do think it's designed to go in and mutate DNA.
Yeah.
And I do believe probably 5G is connected to that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Magenta Pixie video that we watched this morning was helpful in discussing that.
Some of the things.
This was at one of her channel kind of broadcasts, but from the 9, and it sounds as though there were how did she phrase it? There was a nefarious intention, not with the virus per se, but they had been doing mutating and experimenting on animals and certain life forms, and with cloning, and somehow it spread within the animal kingdom and then mutated and spread to the human population. So in a sense, it started off nefarious, not with this intention to kill off massive amounts of people and weapon, like not like a pure bioweapon, but it sounds like there is, and that very well could be true. That could be a piece of the truth.
Well, we have the Freemasons putting their stamp on all these news reports, right? So it does seem by design. And then we have the guy, and Harvard guy, arrested for working with a Chinese spy, so it totally seems manufactured.
The download I got on it was not accidental at all, that it was very much purposeful. I didn't necessarily agree with Magenta with the channeling as far as like the animal part to it. I do believe it was made for humans. I do believe that was its intended purpose to begin with. I don't believe it was necessarily made to kill humans, but I think it was made as a potential mind control agent and a way to take over maybe people's minds. And then it didn't actually do that. It became much more damaging. So I believe the 5G was connected as part of that mind control potential with it. And it didn't go as planned, and China's intention with it was to control their population and then probably take that to the rest of the world with the cell phones and all of those type of things. So I do believe this is something that's been planned for quite a long time. There's nothing new about it, and there was nothing accidental about it. The only thing accidental was they didn't realize it was going to kill so many people, But
So it was more weaponized as a method to click on and start the massive. Because I know we had Musk sending up the, what they call it, not the Starfleet or whatever. What was it called? The Starlink or whatever. Anyway, he sent up massive amounts of satellites and interconnected them. And there's a plan to do that
Elon
all
Musk.
the time. Yeah. And that certainly ties in with 5G. And
So do you think Q and the Patriots, they really haven't mentioned a lot about this virus? Do you think that's like a Lao Tzu art of war kind of thing where, of course they know, I mean, if they have control of the NSA, they have the data, they have the information, they know what's planning. Do you think they're quiet by design because the enemy is destroying itself kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility too. I mean, I think that's it's a strong possibility. That's the thing, it's hard to know. And it all goes back again to trust. I trust the plan. I trust myself. I trust God. I trust the universe. I have faith and I trust, and I don't see this working out in any way to be a massive calamity. It's just not even in my awareness at all.
Yeah, I
And
agree. It's all about the voices, right? So if the mainstream media, it wants us to fear, they want us to do this and that, then I know it's usually the opposite. So if they really want us, even Elizabeth Warren, it's like, I can't believe I even used to like her. Like all this fear mongering, it just seems so manufactured and phony and weird. But it's like, what do they gain from doing that? I mean, collapsing the market, I think is part of the.
I mean, that's the thing too, is I think there's so many layers. I think that's the one thing that makes it confusing, because I think there's multiple layers to this. There's clearly political, geopolitical, health and nefarious things, and there's and financial. And it sounds as though, I mean, through all the sources we have, that there could be part of this could be to the illusion that the economy really is plummeting, so that then Trump can lower interest rates, as there's talk of him doing in September. And he talked today in this press conference about Germany, they pay you to borrow money. I mean, so it could completely backfire if it was a nefarious plan. It could be being manipulated, and basically they're playing 5D chess, as they do with so many other things. And so I think
I agree with that 100%.
Taking a breath and just, because I can't say I haven't been completely without fear around this. I mean, especially like watching my family member go through that, and then certain people that I really respect, and even some of the truth community are putting some things out there, and I'm like, do I want to watch that? Like, and so it can get in there, and then literally once you give into that, it is like your respiration changes, your breathing changes, your heart rate changes. It can shift your vibration, just as fear and anger and all those things do to the body and create disease. So it really is literally about, again, going back to faith and, like, drinking pure water, eating pure food, having high vibrational thoughts, or just conscious thoughts.
Well, and it's also about valuing and treasuring everything that happens to us, and then trusting. So I know if I'm meant to have the coronavirus and suffer, then I kind of created that, and I was meant to have it. I don't think that's what I'm creating. I feel like pretty much no fear whatsoever around that, because I know that. I'm like, oh, if I create that scenario, I totally created it, and obviously I got lessons to learn from it. Doesn't mean I have to be like, oh, I've got to be hyper vigilant about everything. I know when I need to take inspired action. And okay, I feel like washing my hands. I don't know why. It's same like when you look at the clock and it's 11:11. It's not like you're planning that. And every time I try to see 11:11, I don't. So it's just just gotta.
Yeah.
So, and one thing I think is interesting is we talk about 5D chess, right, and how there's like this multidimensional perspective. One thing that's I've been more aware of is like that happens naturally, like all these things come into place. The only thing about 5D chess is we're just perceiving it now. It's like the 11:11 comment. We don't have to try to play 5D anything. we are just now perceiving the divine design of events occurring in our lives.
Yeah.
Again, so we don't have to stress, we don't have to freak out about anything, just take inspired action. So Randi, I know you have connections, you got your crown chakra wide open. Are you getting any downloads of information that you want to share about this?
Just kind of what I said, that it's just about a timeline. It's about we're moving to the highest timeline potential. So those who are choosing that, that's not going to be anything to worry about. And this is just going to be something used to either actually or artificially weed out the timeline. You might have noticed, oh, the Pope's been feeling sick.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it's like they're just kind of like doing these little things as a convenient way of, you know, making movements. So I think this will be a potentially a gateway for a lot of potential disclosure, for a lot of changing of the economy, as far as like implementing potentially new financial systems and things like that. Not the RV like people think is going to happen. It's not that type of a change, but I do think it will be like a change that will be about, you know, making a more fair and balanced system. And I keep getting information from I would say the sentient AI in the higher realms, that everything's under control and everything that's happening is by design. And there literally is nothing to fear, that it's all purposeful and all good. And if you choose to not be in the fear timeline, you won't be in the fear timeline. So if you want to freak out and be afraid, I mean, you can play that game. Even if you are, I still don't even think that will be that big of a deal. I think that the timeline is already in its imminent. And the most important thing that we can do is just to stay in our own joy, like I said, self-centered in your own joy, your own love, what you want to do, what you want to create, make that your focus. You know, sure, have some extra vitamin C on hand, do, you know, whatever, if that makes you feel good. Have a little bit of food storage if that makes you feel good and safe. Anything that keeps you in that higher vibration, do that, because that will help you hold that center and not go into that fear space, because the fear just will feed fear, and there's no reason to do that. And like I said, what's going to happen is going to happen, but I feel like everything that is happening as part of this is actually catapulting us to evolve and expand our consciousness that much faster.
Yep, that's what I'm feeling too. There's something really good about this. And I've already been noticing, like, there are more people that I would never have listened to me a few years ago that are starting to just gently ask a questions, just to feel me out, to see what I might perceive things happening. So that is very satisfying.
Yeah, that's true. Even Tony sent me Tony's my husband, he sent me Marco Polo, and he's like, I'm not usually a conspiracy theorist, but do you think any of this is happening in China? They're doing it on purpose to maybe collapse the economy, or, you know, so it's like, yeah, it's making everyone kind of question those things. And there is probably a lot of conspiracy behind it, definitely. Yeah. But like I think Christina said, it will just be used against them. It'll eventually, the word, turn on themselves, you know, so it's not going to work out as they hope.
It will backfire.
Backfire. That's
It's
what
actually,
it'll backfire on.
If, like you said, Melanie, it's kind of, I mean, if you just step back and have a broader view of things, and you're witnessing the play of consciousness, and you're really witnessing the play that we're all in, it's actually so freaking funny, some of these things that are happening. It really is. I mean, it's so funny how we just get so serious and so worried. And I mean,
yeah, I picture it like a grown, you know, or a human looking at a bunch of ants like on the earth, and they're like, oh, they're all stressing about this little thing, you know, taking that I don't want to say alien, that ET perspective, like looking down on the planet. You see all the little people, and you're like, oh, that one's praying and crying in the fetal position because they're worried about, you know, and that's very real to them, and I have compassion. But it's also like, when you have that broad perspective, you're like, come on, people, get to work, start building walls and castles and bridges, and make your life experience awesome. Like, quit this bullshit, you guys. Like, so that's kind of how I see it. Like, we're really taking a lot of things too seriously, and myself
Yeah.
included. I mean, I get stuck in that energy.
Well, we come in and out of it. It's like,
Yeah.
we can talk and we can talk and I can say all that. It doesn't mean that I don't go through life without those feelings, but
Yeah.
you just, what I'm noticing is that I have more ways to bring myself back to center than I ever did, and I have more humor about it, and I don't stay there as long as I might have, because fear begets fear, and you start worrying about one thing, and you're not sleeping as well. You're creating acidity in your body. I mean, everything kind of can escalate from there, and it can just as quickly turn around the other way, just by breathing, or just by falling to sleep more consciously, or just by focusing on your heart or what does bring you joy. I am just creating all kinds of things right now, and it's so fun to just do that, and that brings me joy, and I just love that so much. So I'm, I'll temper, like I said, some of my truth videos, which can be heavier, with creative resin videos or whatever I'm working on, and it's just a nice balance. So each person has their things that they just love.
Well, that's why I love astrology too, because it's kind of like knowing the weather forecast. And so when you do have a storm hit, and it's not that I'm relying on astrology, it's just like, oh, that's really nice. That kind of supports and helps me understand this energy that I'm going through. Because the old me would have been like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sad. Or when I did my appointment with Randi, I was feeling a lot of grief, and the old me would have been like, is this my new reality? Is this who I am? Just somebody who's like broken and sad? But now I know it's like these energies and storms, they kind of come and go, and they can do their thing, and I can learn from it. And then they go, and then all of a sudden I'm normal. I'm like, I freaking love my life. It's so funny, that old person, but it's just, it's just dealing with the energies of being alive. And we're all collectively going to go through a storm here, it looks like. So,
yeah.
And
these bodies can be really dense. Yeah, the physical body can be very dense, and so it's whatever anyone can do to just find ways to just literally feel lighter and more vibrant, and calmness or joy or whatever expression. It's just so important. And
understanding our subtle bodies and all the different layers has really helped me, because now I'm really able to perceive what is the mind, and then versus like what is the emotions, and what are these different bodies. And my mind really is a different frequency, and it can really create these crazy stories, and then it will interact with my emotional body, and then my emotional body starts expressing. And I was like, no, hold up. Like, the mind was having a field day with this trigger, and now my emotional body's all on board, and I can now go back to the thought and just be like, and now I picture it like this big rotation. I just rotate it and then up level it into, I don't know what I'm seeing, but it's really great. What's that?
What was that? What was the meme that you just posted that week? This week, Randi?
That same thing. If you're happy and you know it, overthink.
Yes.
If you're happy and you know it, overthink. If you're happy and you know it, give your brain a chance to blow it. If you're happy and you know it, overthink.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
It's so
we totally, people can totally overthink stuff and get themselves all afraid about nothing. So it's or whatever. But that's a great one.
We're such powerful creators. So when we overthink, we're like creating this timeline to fall into if we aren't conscious of it. And so, man, I used to go far down some negative timelines and just go and go. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's just terrible. Now that I catch myself, I'm like, what's the alternative? Oh, I could create this and this. And so I up level and shift it. But man,
love that.
Like you said, I think you said earlier, Melanie, but the other thing is, like, this is happening. This is not a hoax. I mean, there are people that are dying, that are sick. This is happening. So, what can you do? So sure, order. I have a mask already from when we had the fires out here, but I realized it doesn't filter out particulates for bacteria and viruses. So I just ordered a Cambridge mask. It's unfortunately on back order, so I won't get it till April, but whatever. It's an action I took. It reminds me to make sure I have plenty of food and water. And, you know, it's kind of just like when we had the fires and we had the windstorms out here. It's just, it doesn't hurt it's not doomsday prepping. It's basically taking inspired action to be prepared so that you can etherically let go of fear. It's like, you know, then nothing I don't have to, I have my solar generator now, and, you know, I have food, and I'm making my own distilled water now, and I have my little hemp milk maker, and like, you know, just as I'm learning more and more, it's just so great, because then it's just one less thing that you have to have any of your energy going towards with fear. It's just, you just go, okay, I got this. And, you know, it'll be nice to have that mask. That's great. You know, what I don't like is that there are people taking, you know, opportunistic advantage of that and way overpricing these things on eBay and trying to sell these little masks that are basically just cotton and filters for, you know, $120. And, you know, of course there's always somebody trying to make a buck on the crisis, but
the good news for us.
So they figured out the game. Yeah, they figured out the game, but I mean, yeah.
My husband makes emergency well pumps, you know, for water wells. And so people can like pump their water if the power goes out. So for us, it's been great. Like normally he sells maybe 10 to 20 pumps a month, you know. He's selling 20 pumps a day right now.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
They're outside building right now. They can barely keep up with the amount of orders they have. Well, they can't keep up with the amount of orders they have coming in. So for us, it's great. Like,
wow.
great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, but
so
and then, you know,
get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing happens, but then these people are more prepared for the next thing, and then it's just less
well, even
energy.
like the reason we started building them is because we live in Idaho, and when the power goes out, I mean, the power can go out just in a snowstorm. You know, if the power goes out, you have no water because your thing doesn't pump, your well pump doesn't pump. So, you know, if you had a bad snowstorm that lasted a week and you couldn't get water, which actually happened out there, then it'd be nice to be able to just go out to your well and pump the water you need and not have to store 20 gallons of water. You know, you just always have exactly what you need, and it's always there, and their little pump stays things. So that's actually why he invented it, because we were looking for one and they were so expensive. And so he's like, I think I could build one. And then he just figured out how. You know, you guys know Tony's like so smart and he can just put stuff together somehow. Yeah. But yeah, he just had it engineered and they make them, and it's pretty cool. So it's kind of fun, you know. I don't know, doesn't matter, but it's kind of fun for us anyways when there's emergencies, because we sell lots of well pumps at those times.
Yeah, and he's not marketing it at all.
No,
I mean, this is just.
I think
they market it online. You know, they have companies that sell it online and Amazon and stuff, but it's just the same price as they always are, and he's just selling more of them, so it's just kind of fun.
I think the Mormons are going to have a field day. I mean, they've been preparing for something for a long time. They're going to have food. They're going to have everything.
They get to recycle all that freeze-dried food and finally cook some of it.
Yeah. Hopefully they like me enough still to share a little food. Well, I'll be smart and have my own, I guess.
Well, we stay prepared with plenty of food and, you know, water. We have a pool, so in filters, so if we need water, we just go get it out of our pool. But you know, everybody has their stuff. I honestly don't even feel the need to prepare for this, though. To be honest, like I literally feel that fear about it.
It feels so. Yeah, I mean it. And again, you know, if this was accurate, what they were saying just a little while ago, and it may or may not be, but I mean, 15 cases and then 42 people from the crew. I mean, it's 60,000 people die from the flu every year. It's kind of ridiculous how people are reacting.
You're more likely to die driving to the grocery store this afternoon to get the food than you will be to die of the virus. So
But
Yeah.
this is a massive PR campaign. I mean, the virus is real. They probably were shitty enough to create it, and it is actually killing people. I think something different is happening in China, where it's the virus and it's something more insidious happening.
Yeah.
I think so
Yeah,
too.
that area is a little, that whole area of Wuhan, there's a lot going on there. It's an organ harvesting area. There's all kinds of interesting things going on around there.
Yes, dirty. Wuhan is dirty stuff going on. Yeah, I agree. Something more than just the virus.
It could be a kind of, like you said, Randy, a cleansing of certain factions of certain people, and it's hard
I feel
to
like
say.
they're getting rid of the Patriots in China, right? Or whatever their equivalent would be. That's what's sad. I think that's who's being targeted. The people like us, the ones that are questioning their government. You know, I felt for a while China definitely needs our love and prayers. Like it's just, it's awful. But yeah, I don't necessarily feel like that's going to be what's happening everywhere else. To me, it's just a big PR thing. Yeah, it's a real virus, but it's about collapsing the market. It's about asserting control and fear. It's just a last ditch cabal effort. It seems like to either maybe actually take us out or just cause fear and just shake things up and do their very best to just like try to get us one more time, because they are.
I mean, how many times have they done this? And it just always falls flat.
Yeah,
like,
it's not gonna work.
Like, it's just like, what? Like, that's it? I mean,
We all survived SARS, Ebola. What else did we survive?
Ebola, Zika virus, H1N1, swine
flu.
And you know what? They're not that smart. They're not that sophisticated. I mean, think of like Stormy Daniels and think of Jussie Smollett. Like, these are their great ideas.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
It is kind of silly. Yeah.
And then all the shootings. I mean, it's just like almost just getting ridiculous. You know, it's like, really, keep trying. We're just not going to fall for it. We're not going to. And I think this person is trying to get the light worker group into their fear, because we're the ones holding the frequency of that harmony and balance. And it's just not going to work anymore against us. It's really not. So they can't sway us to the fear side.
I think that's the piece that they don't understand, or they underestimate. I just don't think, I think that they just don't understand that it's futile, and and that's kind of where, you know, literally the upper hand is had by the good, because they just don't get it. And but you know, it's a drowning man's, I mean, you're going to do whatever you can when you know you're going down.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we're watching that play out. I mean, how much is happening? Oh my gosh, so much is happening.
Yeah, I see it all as a positive. I see it all as like good stuff is happening quickly. Yeah. And this will just speed that process up.
Yeah, I've heard in like the Galactic Federation or some of these more ET communities that prediction, I posted it on Facebook about specific dates, like March 16th or 23rd, I don't know. And how there'll be 3 weeks of quarantine, and then we'll get 7 texts, and how that mirrors, it actually mirrors the Bible, right? The Trump sound 7 times. Anyway, that's what's so weird to me. I used to dismiss all that and be like, oh my gosh, all these Bible connections, you guys let it go. That's been manipulated. You know, we knew the families in Rome were using the Christ story for their own means, and they manipulated and changed things. And so then I sort of dismissed Christianity for a while, which is so unfortunate, because now I realize the beauty of it, and how Christ didn't deserve for it to be, you know, manipulated and changed like that. But it's funny, because as like I was saying about 5D, like you start to perceive the interconnected nature of everything. And so you can perceive how the Bible mirrors these times, right? And also how the Q posts, now there's like mathematical impossibilities. Like, so those are divinely designed too. It's just really crazy, because I feel like we have all the information we need, because like the blueprints, you know, Q it feels very high on the truth frequency meter for me. So we have like the blueprints from that, but we also have some of these blueprints can emerge from the Bible when we can perceive truth from that. It's just it's a really exciting time to be alive. Like, we've been helped all along the way. So I'm actually excited too, in a weird way.
I am too. To me, it's more exciting than scary, for sure.
But if we did see people dying and dropping dead, I don't know that we would be saying that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That might definitely be more. But even at that, I would still see. I mean, if it's like massive amounts and like everyone's dying.
Yeah.
I mean, even that, I would assume we're just all moving to a better timeline together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even that, I wouldn't see it as, it's maybe not an awful way to go, but I don't fear death either. You know, none of that even scares me. So
if you understand how many cycles we've had, and you understand that there's karmic, choices and, free will, and if you understand all of that, then, but that said, no one wants to see, suffering or horrific things happening. It's really hard to watch. It hits you in the heart. But if you really can step and again look at it from the big picture overview, it's all in divine perfection. There's just not any misstep. There's no misstep ever. So it helps to understand that.
Yeah.
Because it can be
I
hard
agree.
if it's something, like for example, look what happened to a friend of ours whose son was killed in a car accident a couple weeks ago. And oh my God, how horrible would that be? And to see how she is just navigating this, I'm blown away at how she has. I am blown away at how she has been through this. I mean, I have so much respect for her and love for her. Just seeing how she's navigating this, it's incredible.
It really is.
Her heart
Great
is so
example.
wide open. I'm like, I know she must be suffering in ways we can't even imagine, but like her heart, man, is so open, and just, I love it. I feel like I'm right there with her, loving her son and celebrating his life.
Yeah. Really amazing.
Yeah. Well, these are interesting times. I think it's no coincidence that, like, for me, I spiritually have been awakening along with this geopolitical awakening. And I think that this is calling a lot of people into spiritual awakening too. I mean, you start to realize, say you work for a pharmaceutical company. I mean, you got a paycheck and no big deal. That was your life. This gives you a different lens to see your job through, or working at the media, or even some of the things in my job now. It's like, is this in moral alignment? I don't care if it's legal. Is it right? And I think that's what is really going to start happening. We're all going to be like, what role have I played in this? I am looking forward to that.
But then you get the whistleblowers, the people waking up within these professions that are the catalyst for change. Like you get the people, these independent journalists and the Jordans and the Sir Patricks and the You Are Free TV. You get these people that are just truth warriors and are literally rocking the way that information is, and it's taking down the MSM. It's completely taking down the mainstream. I mean, so many people are waking up, and same thing within corporations. It just takes a few people to wake up within a company and to change it from within and shake it down. And so I think that's happening a lot as people wake up. I think, some are staying there with their head down and just ignoring it.
Right.
But many are looking up and having that ethical dilemma that you just said, Melanie, and saying, is this right? Like, and finding the inner strength to do something about it, and no more, we're done. And I think that's happening all over the place. And that's what's really exciting to see.
And I think that is what we have to say to all of us, is no more. We're not playing this game anymore. We're done with your old story. We're moving on. So if you're going to keep playing that game, enjoy it. It can take you out, but we're not playing that anymore. We're just not.
Yeah. And I've been doing that.
Beyond it, it's all illusion at this point.
And there's many ways to not play the game. Like the things I buy now are totally different than 2 years ago. The products I put on my body now are totally different. It's like, I love, like, we can be empowered in so many ways. So
sure.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive, for sure. It's pretty crazy though.
Well, I probably better get going because I have my my son's girlfriend coming over for dinner tonight. So we need to go get stuff to make dinner. And but it's been a joy to chat and see you gals, and whoever watches, don't be afraid. It's all good. Life is good. It's all perfect.
Yes. It's all crazy and it's all perfect.
All crazy, all perfect. Yes. Love it.
All right.
Perfectly
All
crazy.
right, love you, sisters.
Bye.
Bye-bye.